Section D, you might store things like entitled vacation days taken, sick days, overtime if applicable, accrued paid time off, any leaves of absence. So let's just unpack that a little bit. So entitled vacation days. Don't be afraid to be generous. And I do mean that. I know employment standard says if you're provincially regulated that all you need to give is 2 weeks for the first few years. But what if you gave more? I know there's an organization in town that gave 5 weeks to start. Don't be afraid. Just think, does it fit your culture? What's the kind of environment that you want to create and what time makes sense? Make it clear how many days people are entitled to. Most cases, simply having reconciled pay stubs with accounting speak is not the answer. So sometimes what employers do is it's just on the pay stub, it's a reconciliation of hours that give you an idea of how many hours vacation you have. Employees want to know, do I have 10 days, 15 days? How many have I taken? How many do I have left? How many do I have left and when can I take them? Make that really simple for them. Because otherwise, they're going to keep asking unless you make it clear. Vacation days taken, there's a liability there if you're not tracking it well. So make sure you have a good tracking system. If you don't have something online, I strongly encourage you to do so. There's lots of online systems that you can just pay a per user rate. And it makes it super simple. If somebody wants a vacation, they key it in, it goes to their manager approves it, and all of a sudden you've got accurate record. If you're not keeping good track of leaves, especially vacation, you could have a big liability on the books for yourself. There's an organization that we worked with who had an employee that was leaving, and they weren't keeping good track of vacation, and he said that he had something like, I don't remember exactly, it was something like 22 weeks of vacation and 180 hours of overtime. But they hadn't really tracked it that well or at all. And so they were then stuck with this liability that unless they could prove otherwise, they were kind of in trouble. So please track it and track it well. Sick days. Ensure you have a clear policy. Consider allowing sick time prior to passing probation. I know you want to wait till probation before you allow people to take sick times or have vacation, and that's okay. If that fits your culture, I'm all for that. And consider doing it right away. If you hire well, an employee who comes in and is sick within the first 3 months would sure appreciate it if they got an extra day off because they really, really needed it. Because otherwise they might come in sick. But again, it has to fit your culture. I'm not trying to subscribe something to you that doesn't make sense for you. And not all roles does that make sense for. So I just say, just consider it, but if it doesn't work for you, that's fine. Also thinking about the difference between personal days and sick days. If you want to offer some personal days, that's great. But please keep sick time separate. Sick time is really intended for when someone's not well and you don't want them to come to work. If you want to give them some personal days as well, that's great. Also make it very clear in your policies that they don't get paid out for it, it doesn't carry forward, all of that. You want to make sure that that's as clear as it can be. Over time, make sure that your policy asks employees to seek permission first, and then make sure you track it, and track it accordingly to the legislations that govern employment. Accrued time off, if people are going to have bank time, make sure there's a clear policy, and make sure you've followed all the right legislations to ensure that you're doing it on side. Not all employees want bank time, so make sure if you're doing it, you've got the consent that you need. Summary, track attendance. Consider a web-based system if you're not using one now. Untracked leaves are a liability. I can't stress that enough. And just to give you a quick example, we were working with an organization, so it affects productivity, and they were manual. They had about 180 employees, and they had a manual process. So an employee wanted vacation time. They'd have to get a piece of paper, they'd fill it out. They'd pass it to so-and-so, who'd pass it to so-and-so, who'd pass it to so-and-so, who'd record it, and it would go back through the chain. It was costing them about $8,000 a month in lost productivity. We took all that out and put an automated system in place, and all of a sudden productivity loss went down from $8,000 to $3,000. So they gained $5,000 in increased productivity per month, just from a time loss system. That just from a sick tracking system or a vacation system tracking. Does that make sense? So I can't stress enough how important it is to have really good systems, and the automated ones, I gotta say, are the best that you can, I think are the best, the easiest, the least likely to have errors. Ensure employees take time off each year as well. I know everybody gets busy, but they need to take a minimum of 2 weeks off, but it's also important that they take the time off so that they can come back and be refreshed. This has been an initiative of the City of Penticton's Economic Development Department. And I'm Corey Meadell from the Jouta Performance Group.